Hi guys, I'm Summer,
And I'm Carolina.
and we're sleep consultants.
For 21 years combined and really great friends for like 2 months.
We have our own kids. I have 2 kids over 18.
And I have 2 kids under 18.
We have worked with over 1,000 families combined. That's a lot of kids.
That's so many kids. And we also run our own sleep consulting practices and we mentor other sleep consultants.
That's a lot of things that we do.
Yeah, but you know what? Our goal really is to bring peace and less stress into your homes.
And that's why we decided to do a podcast together. Call it For the Love of Sleep.
I just love that. So if you guys want some sleep tips, laugh, and know how we get through all these things, come on down and listen to our podcast.
Hey everyone, this is Summer.
And Carolina, what's up, guys?
We're so excited to get this out there. And today we actually were just talking about, the question is, having no clue how to parent. Did you have a clue when you had your baby how to parent?
No, I had, if you guys remember my first story, I was talking about how at the hospital I had to get, tips from the nurses on how to change my son's diaper. I had no clue. I still don't. My kids are 10 and 8 years old. I
You
feel
don't know how
like,
to change your diaper?
oh,
Wait,
no, well,
they're
God
not-
forbid, they shouldn't, no, I kind of
They're
learned
potty
that.
trained.
Yeah, I learned that eventually, but they shouldn't be in diapers anymore.
Adult diapers now.
I mean, I'm feeling like I'm winging it at points, and I think that that's also what I've noticed, like a lot with like our clients is we feel that we need to do everything perfectly, and that we should all know exactly like the game book for parenting, and there's so many different ways on it. But I think the end of the day, we just want to make sure that we're raising respectful human beings that love themselves. What? I
agree with that. I agree with that. And I have above teenagers that are late teenagers right now, 19. And you think you raise them, and then you're just like, they moved out, and you're like, what in the world are they doing? Like, we can try our best, but this is here's parenting tip for teens. Do your best. Don't freak out.
Yeah.
Don't push it on them that you're, it's they did something wrong, yes, but don't freak out about it. But there are points in your life that you're like, who the heck is this kid? Because I swear to you, I taught you better. That is like, I don't even know. I stood literally in front of my son's house today with my arms crossed in front of him, and he's just like, well, I'm going to run my life. What does that even mean? Like, I still call my parents, but you're going to do whatever you want? I'm telling you, babies are the ideal. Like, if you're struggling with sleep, if I could have a baby that was struggling with sleep right now, I would take it over my teen that I want to just look at and go, really? I gave birth to you? Yeah, I mean,
what is he gonna say? You gave birth to me. You were, in labor for these amount of hours. Let me repay you for the
30-some hours with him. And he had a huge head. And, I mean, come on. I mean, they had to suction him out of my Yahoo or Yuha, whatever you want to call it. And I'm like, kidding me? And now it's like, I just want to squeeze his head.
What, and put him back in?
I don't yet. I'm at this point. I think he needs to go back in and regroup. Like, okay, this is not how we raised you. I don't know what you're thinking. Please don't see any of my friends because they're gonna question my parenting. And I swear to God, we raised really good kids. I'm just not quite sure.
Well, my kids, I'm not there yet. Mine are 10 and my youngest is going to be turning 8. So I just like, even myself, from what I remember, and, I was always brought up to be very respectful, and I was actually pretty scared of my mom.
Well, he's probably scared of me right now.
But not like in that fear kind of way, the way that, I don't want to ever have them think negatively of me in their eyes.
Right. You didn't want to disappoint your parents.
Exactly. So for me, and even now I have a very strong connection with my parents, but I think at a certain point, and girls and boys are obviously different. Everyone's different, but I think that when our kids, when they're getting older, we do, and you educated me on this like a few weeks ago, actually, which is funny, from where we were to like the story that we have now is, you know, sometimes you just need to let go and just trust that you've done everything, but you're always there. And so your children do know that, you know, mom and dad are there to guide you, but they're not going to do it exactly for you. They'll direct you.
Yeah.
You have the ability to kind of already know good versus bad, right?
Yeah, I mean that's the number one rule of parenting. I think it's a really good thing to learn. And I know we had an incident with Sophie when she was like, how old was she? She was probably like 10 years old, and she had an incident with a girlfriend, and it was really dramatic. It was a real bad incident, actually. It was a physical issue that happened, and you could have gone and yelled at the parents involved. You could have done a lot of different things.
Yeah.
But we just calmly said, okay, well, I'm glad you told us. You know, I'm glad that you're being honest with us. And I think when I stayed calm, that kept her calm, and letting her know that her guilt didn't have to be there because it wasn't her fault.
Yeah.
So, you know, you have these lessons and you just sit there as a parent and you're like, what in the world? How did that happen?
Yeah.
Like, you know, you raised good kids, right? And you know, you taught them right from wrong. You know, you talked about all the main subjects that need to be talked about before they're 5 years old. And you're like, stranger danger, you know, don't touch yourself. Don't, you know, there's all these things that we have to like teach our kids before 5, right? Because they go to school and then they get corrupted. Because the minute you go to school, you don't know what's going to happen. So you think you have a handle on it. You never have a handle on it. It always comes up. There's always something that's going to shock you, and you're going to be like, did I really have this happen? But how we react is so important, because even if it's shocking to the back of our brain and we're like, oh my God, I'm freaking out, but it needs to be on the inside. Because if we freak out with our kids and we're screaming and yelling, or we're crying because we're hurt for them, unfortunately, it can make it way worse, and then they can dwell on it for years to come because their memory keeps going back to that.
Yeah.
So I've learned over the years, say my piece, say it calmly, say I love you, and then hopefully they make the right decisions. And sometimes I'm just like, did they not make the right decision? Okay, I know I taught you better than that.
No, I mean, I agree with you to that point. I also think that, you know, I don't want the listeners or the viewers to think that, you know, we as moms and dads can't show emotions either to our kids. I think that's very important.
Oh, believe me, no, there's emotion showed.
Yeah.
But the emotion that I'm talking about is like where I wanted to literally run out of the house and pull somebody's hair out and be like, are you kidding? You did this to my kid?
Yeah.
Like,
oh, no,
we can't do that, because it would be easily for us to over freak out, right?
I don't know how you contain yourself, because when my kids were like a little younger and we would be at the park and there would be like another little person, I'll just say that. And then they just would like take my son's toys away. Whew. That was like intense, because, and they're just like mean. They're just mean. And then you would see like their caretaker, whoever's with them, not really paying attention some of the times. And you would just hear my voice catapult from like across the whole park saying, hey, what do you think you're doing?
That is so me. Oh my gosh. There's so many times I've walked up to a stranger's kid and been like, nope, don't do that. I mean, I don't know where the parent is or the caregiver, but I just walk up and I'm like, no. And the kid goes,
yeah, they just freeze.
Okay.
Like, what? Like what? Like what? And then I'm like, okay, that's it. It's there's like and I remember that before my husband and I had kids, if we like were at a restaurant or somewhere, and then you'd hear like a screaming child, and then him and me would look at each other and we're like, our kids would never do that. And we became those parents. Like,
oh yeah, no, our kids would scream. You know what we taught Ethan actually when he was little, because he was a screamer, and we would go out to eat, or we would be at the meetings that we're supposed to be quiet at, and we taught him to be the silent scream. So he would stand up. I don't know how he caught on, but he just did. And we went like this. We were like, okay, silent scream. And he'd go,
You look like a mime.
well, like a mime. I mean, and he did it all the time. We have photos of him. Like, he would do it in the mirror in practice, and then we would go to a meeting, or we would be out at a restaurant and he wants to talk, and I'm like, silent scream.
Oh, that's hilarious.
I mean, and it worked. I mean, he was always like really smart. He always picked it up right away when we told him, you know, don't do that. Didn't do it. I don't know what happened. He's 19. But anyways, you know.
Don't scare people. Like,
this is the reality of parenting. I'm sorry, but like, yeah, life is what it is. But yeah, the silent scream, and then he taught Sophie how to do the silent scream. He also taught Sophie how to walk. You know, like, so we had our kids 16 months apart. So they pretty much only had each other. Like, it was pretty much like twins. And so,
you know, those, you know, like they have the silent screen. Well, you have the silent screen, but then they also have like the silent game. So when we're driving, sometimes my husband and I are talking and our kids will go, Mom, Dad, play the silent game. And we're like,
oh, nice.
I'm like, what?
You're telling us to be quiet. Oh, thanks. Oh my gosh. There was this story. So we were driving back from Columbus, Ohio. My in-laws live in Wilmington, Ohio. And we were driving back. It's like a 30-minute drive. And the kids are, Sophie must have been a year and Ethan was like 2.5. And they're in their car seats and we're playing the sheep or like cow game. Like, what does the sounds of a cow make? You know, moo. What does the sound of the horse make? Neigh. So I'm just sitting there, right? And the kids are making these sounds and I'm just sitting there and I don't say anything like, I didn't say, what does a sheep make? I just went, bah, like literally. And like, they all burst out laughing. And I don't even know how my 1-year-old figured it out, but I literally forgot to say the sound. I just said the sound. I'm like, oh my God, but they will never let me live it down. They still remember it. I don't even understand. But every time I pass that farm on that highway, I just die laughing because it was like the funniest thing. I mean,
that sounds like me. How do you do your sheep sound?
I don't.
Mine's a little more deeper. I go,
bah. Oh, you're really good. But you sound like a goat.
True. It's good. That sounds like a goat. Bah. Yeah, that sounds like a goat.
You know, I'm not going to do the sound again. I'm so bad.
That was my son. That was my oldest, Ari. You want to say hi?
All right, there you go.
Podcast with Summer. You want to say hi to everyone?
Is this an animal class podcast?
No, my love. It's a podcast called For the Love of Sleep, but we're talking about animals right now.
Yeah. What happens when your kids are in the car?
A lot of things. Go play with your brother.
So yeah, it was just one of those memories I'll never forget where everyone in the car remembers it. It's like, you know, and it's so funny when we're living in this like craziness of no sleep and we're exhausted and we feel overwhelmed and we're just pissed all the time and we're mad at our husbands, we're mad at our mates, we're not eating. It's such a short period of time. It is like in a blink of an eye, you will have that baby sleeping, you will have a routine, and you'll forget all of what happened because all of a sudden life happens and they keep growing up. And in the blink of an eye, they're older.
Do you ever have like the clients that you've worked with where they connect with you and then you tell them like how it's going to be, meaning like what they should like anticipate, and they're like, they start laughing, like legitimately start laughing, like, what do you mean my kid's going to be sleeping like 10 to 12 hours? Like, stop that. That's not realistic. Let me get like maybe 4 hours. And then I start laughing because I'm like, no, my goals always supersede my clients. So have you ever had that? Yeah.
So I had a client a few years back and she said to me on the phone, she said, I'm feeding her every hour. Mm-hmm. She goes, I would like to get to 3 times a night. And she's 9 months old. And I just looked at my phone like, is she serious? I'm like, I'm like, I actually can get you to 0.
Yeah.
Like, how would that feel? Oh, really? And I'm like, yes. And I actually did get her down. And I kept one feeding with her. And the only reason is because she was a failure to thrive baby.
Okay. Explain what that is.
You have a failure to thrive baby is a baby that didn't retain weight over a period of time. So she was actually 14 pounds at 9 months, which isn't too bad. She was petite. Mm-hmm. but going from 12 feedings a night that were 3 ounces to 0 was a little overwhelming for her body.
Yeah.
So over a 2-week period, I ended up taking it down to a 3 a.m. feed, and she got 3 ounces, and she was just fine. And she ate really well during the day. We got her on a good schedule. Yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of ways we can sleep train. We don't have to take away a feeding at night. We can take away 12 feedings. We can take away 11 feedings, you know. So, yeah, but that was one client that was like, I just want 3 feedings a night. I was like, no, we're not doing that. It definitely, but we adapt as sleep consultants. We adapt to the clients.
Yeah.
So,
Well, at least we do. We can't speak
well,
for
we do. I guess we do.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Because I do the same thing where, you know, I would have a mom, and I still even keep like one night feed up until 9 months sometimes. But it also depends on the child. If I know that it's still more of a nutrition feed. But if they're so used to constantly eating at night, I don't go from like, you know, 7 feeds at night to 0 in one shot, especially if the mom is nursing. That's just going to be a nightmare for everybody altogether. So it's good to understand the digestive system. And also I call it poop sabotage, because like what I've noticed over the years is that when you do start to take away feeds at night and you start to increase them little by little during the day.
Yes, exactly.
Kids sometimes your digestive system adjusts. And if they never had bowel movements during a nap or sleep, all of a sudden they'll start having them, and I'll get texts and say, oh my God, they slept for like 30 minutes and then they had a bowel movement and I don't know what to do. So I started putting a term to it, like poop sabotage, which I think is like hilarious. So when I tell them that, I'm like, oh, they had a poop sabotage. And then the parents are like, what? And sometimes I forget that I didn't tell them what the term is, because we come up with our own terminology sometimes because, you know, we've been doing it for so long.
Exactly.
But
it's
like,
really true. I mean, it really is a sabotage of the nap. Like they poop. So what do you do when that happens? What's your suggestion when that happens? Do you go in and change them or wait till after their nap?
No, I don't wait. That's nasty.
Right. So I go in and change them, but don't communicate. I don't sit there and wake them up. I literally change their diaper, wipe them, put a new one on, and put them back to bed. I'm like,
So what I do is I tell parents, keep everything. Well, first of all, I tell them once we start to shift the feedings, I say, have your crib ready. So have like a crib mattress, a crib sheet, and then have like another crib sheet over it, and maybe like something in between.
Okay.
So if, you know, when they're changing them, something happens to fall onto the sheet, they don't have to take the baby out. You just kind of shimmy them to the side and you do that. And when I ask them, can you please change them in the bed? Because if you start taking them out, it's too much. So I have everything.
What if you're short? What if the mom is short though, and the crib is like too far down?
I've had that happen where she fell in.
I would be like, okay, grab your kid, go change them and put them back in. I mean, because it's short people, we have issues.
Well, I had that too. I one time put my son in the crib and I almost fell in with him because the crib rail was so high, but you get a step stool. Be resourceful. One of the main things that I've noticed is the reason why I have moms do it that way, where they have, you know, the wipes, you know, change of clothes, everything has to be like within arm's reach. And they can put a changing pad into the crib as well, because if they take them out, what ends up happening is they don't know what they're doing. They can't see. And then it's too much stimulation for the child. And then they fully wake up. This way they could somewhat try and get them back to sleep. But I also tell parents, you might want to have like a small little sliver of a nightlight or something, so you don't like walk in the nursery and like stub your toe on the crib. And then
I've done that on a dresser. You know, I was working overnights helping people. When I go in and do sleep train jobs, I'll fly out and I have no idea how the setup of the house is. And it's like you have to be very quick on your feet when you're walking in the house and learn where everything is so that you can, you know, observe the baby, sleep train them, get them, and then get out. So yeah, it's, man, the things that we have to do for our kids.
I remember when I did, before COVID, when I did in-home consults, I would be in the room with the mom or the dad, And sometimes, depending on the age of the child, if they could stand or like
Mhm.
falling, they would be able to see me through the slats, and they'd like just be like this, like they're like staring at me. So I've literally had to crawl on all fours, like, and be on the floor or hiding behind the crib. One time I actually had to hide in a closet because the child was literally able to see me and started like giggling and standing and pointing. I was like entertainment. And all I kept thinking is they have cameras, right? Because for the nanny, and I'm
Oh yeah.
if they've put this on like America's Funniest Home Videos or on YouTube, like this is gonna be like the weirdest thing. My husband's gonna call me and he's gonna say, "Who's this weirdo climbing on the floor?" or whatever. It's the funniest stuff that we do.
I know.
But it gets the work done because, like, I would be whispering to the mom, "Okay, what is she doing? Is she laying down now? Okay, I want you to do this now." And then and then the mom is like, "Okay." And it's just the two of us whispering. And then when the baby falls asleep, we exit the room. We do like a celebratory dance together. And then, we just kind of, go with the rest of the evening. But it's fun. But it brings you back to, the basics of parenting, where sometimes we forget or we think too much.
Yeah.
I think that's what the issue is, because we know so much and there's so much information out there.
Yeah.
That, you can even say yourself that a lot of our clients would literally find us at 2 or 3 in the morning nursing or rocking their child to sleep, and they're on their phone trying to find solutions.
Yeah.
So it's like going back to our first topic with the parenting thing. It's hard, but it's also, it has its rewards if you kind of put yourself in the ability to be able to not be perfect.
Yeah. Actually, we have a lot of clients who call us who are very much type A. That's how they describe themselves.
They literally say that.
It's like literally the first sentence in a conversation. Well, I'm very type A, which tells us exactly what we know we're getting ourselves into. They want that very structured method. They want and hand holding. They want to make sure that we're putting everything in order. It's funny. I was actually, as you were talking, I was thinking of a case that I had, and the mom kept calling me when they'd be in town. They were traveling all the time for work. She'd call me and say, "Hey, do you have a couple of nights? I need you to come in. It does not sleep, but when we're in a hotel, he sleeps just fine." So a lot of what we do is troubleshoot, right? That's really what it is. So we're kind of like brainstorming in the middle of the night at 3:00 in the morning, like, why is this kid awake? Like, mind boggling. Mom's done. She knows he's not sleeping. So this case that I was on, I had been working with them for like 3 to 4 months at this point. Like whenever they were in town, I'd go in, same thing. He'd wake up 2 or 3 times a night. It was so aggravating that I couldn't get him to train. But when they were gone, he slept all night. Made no sense. It was like, what's bothering him in this house that he couldn't sleep?
Yeah.
So I ended up, he threw all his passies out of the crib and he was hanging over the side. So I crawled in the room and I was like throwing the things like bombs into his little crib, right? But I was trying not to have him see me, and I was wearing all black. And I turn over and I'm looking up and he's looking down at me and like drool is coming off his face onto me. And I'm like, oh my gosh. I look and I'm like, his crib is like, the crib is here. And I'm looking up and I see this beam of light from the window hitting the mirror and shining right on his bed. And I would never have seen it if I had not been looking up. And I just ran down the stairs to my client and woke her up and her husband. I was like, we need to move the furniture in his room right now. And as soon as we did, he never had a problem again and slept 13 hours a night. But it took a while because it took me like actually literally sitting on the floor and laying on my back. So,
well, there was a reason in why you did that. I have the same stuff. So whenever I do in-homes, I'm literally like on all fours.
I know. We have to see like every little thing that could be bothering them. And this is what parents need to understand, actually. Like, sleep is a portion of the problem, but what is triggering it and what is not working? And that's what we do. We bring in our expertise, but we bring in our knowledge and we bring in our our mystery of like what could actually be the problem. It could be food. It can be definitely a food issue.
Yeah.
A scheduling issue. It can be a mirror issue. I really stress that to parents. Like, do you have mirrors in the bedroom? Because reflections, kids get scared. I had one client have a roaring lion picture over the bed.
Over the bed?
Like
What do you mean, like on the
roaring
ceiling?
lion, like over the crib. And I was just like, okay. And it was painted on the wall. I was like, okay, we need to like get the mural off the wall and just paint it a solid color at this point. As soon as we did, he was fine. There's just these things that parents just don't think about. They think it's like a beautiful jungle picture, but the jungle picture at night with a nightlight could have been really scary, and kids have imaginations.
Yeah, because of the shadows and all of that other fun stuff that starts to happen.
Yeah, exactly. So think outside the box. When you're talking about sleep training, it's a way more bigger subject than just sleep.
Like, put your detective hat on. That's what my husband always says.
Yes.
Whenever he hears me on consults, he's like, oh my God, you sound like a detective. All those
We are a detective.
asking. But
Yep.
that's what you have to do to get the job done. And, that's how you know when you have a very good sleep consultant.
Yeah, very true. We got to look outside the box.
Yep.
Or outside the sleep training process.
So how do you want to wrap this up?
All right, so we're going to let you guys go. We're going to do another segment. I hope you like this podcast. And again, I'm Summer from Summer Sleep Secrets.
And I'm Karolina from karolinaromaniuk.com. But before we go, we have a sleep tip. Don't forget about that.
No, I'm not forgetting. We've kind of given you.
Oh, right. So what we were going to talk about today, how to keep sleep boring. But I think that the other tips that we gave were really good.
Yes, I think so. But keep bedtime boring. Make sure it's consistent. And
Literally get down to your child's eye level.
look at what's going on their level versus being above them. So that's our tip for today. Thank you so
Awesome.
much for watching us.
Sweet dreams, guys.
Bye.